When you think of the October to December month stretch, usually a few things come to mind. Pumpkin spice, fantasy football, seasonal depression, booing up, extended family visits, and Christmas debt. So we decided, why not dedicate a season to all of these wonderful things? And if you haven't guessed it by now, the topic of discussion for today's episode is meeting the parents. Yes, we'll cover everything you should consider and probably wish you knew before introducing that special someone to the family this season, as well as reveal some of our firsthand experiences on the matter. So Wagwan, are you there? What's good? It's your boy G Ransom on the horn, and I'm joined by my brothers in bond and probably the most qualified members of this panel to topple this topic, Francis, D Black, and Chunky. So lock it in with us for your daily dose of culture and more this holiday season right after we pay these tributes. And we actually want to kick this episode off with a couple of announcements because we've been under the hiatus a little bit, a little bit of an extended break, and we've been calibrating a few things. And if you're not already aware, we have our first ever podcast event coming up Saturday, November 5th. It is called The Clash in the Garden. It's our poetry and comedy slam. Yes, we combined the two great art forms in one. And as an attendant to this event, you actually get to vote on who should go away with the $200 cash prize for the best poet and the best comedian. This is officially the last call for tickets. So go ahead and jump on Eventbrite. You can go ahead and purchase your tickets there and find more ticket details. This is going to be BYOB, free parking. We got a live DJ spinning Afrobeat, dance hall, hip hop, R&B all night. Yours personally is hosting it. And it's definitely going to be a great time. So definitely tune into that. And it's taking place at the Eventology event venue in Middlesex, New Jersey. So once more, you can find that on Instagram as well. Hashtag Clash in the Garden. Also, we are live. Yes, we're finally on video, y'all. So if you want to put some faces to voices, faces to names, go ahead and lock it into our YouTube page, man, at Jerk Your Off Collard Podcast, Jerk Your Off Collard Greens Podcast on YouTube. And you'll find some of our video clips, which will be segments of our full episodes for your viewing pleasure. So if you really want to see how ashy D Black is, that's your time to find out.
And as you can see, fine boy, no pimples.
Fine boy, no pimple.
No pimples. Yes, exactly. So I just want to drop it over to the panel real quick before we get any further. We have a new segment I like to call Color People Time, where we talk on topics that are a little past their due, but we still got an opinion about it. But before we jump in, let's just do a little wellness check with the fellas here. I know this is the first time people are seeing you all today, and how do y'all feel? What's going on?
Man, good to be back. Man, it's been a minute. How long has it been? Like two months?
About like 2-3 months.
Yeah, it's been about.
Yeah, it's good to be back. We can't wait to get into this topics and me and Chunky go back at it again, but this time it's gonna be live. I'm ready for you this season, boy.
I wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't
okay.
do
Well,
it.
let's see. I'm ready for you though.
We don't need people to see you actually cry on screen. That's what they missed when we were on. Just
oh
voice,
boy, so. Yeah. No, it's gonna be a good time though. I can't wait. Man, what's good, cuz?
I'm chilling, man. I'm just ready to do this. I know we got a bunch of topics to talk about, some interesting things. We have some interesting perspectives to present. So I'm just ready to dig in. I enjoy talking about this stuff just as much as I love listening to our episodes too. So I'm ready.
All right, there you have it, y'all. The panel is ready to go. So let's hop into it. CP time. First topic of discussion on this little segment, and we only have 6 minutes to answer. All right, so that'll be roughly 2 minutes per topic, and we have 3 topics. All right, first one, midterm elections, and yes, they are among us, and they are taking place on November 8th to be exact. Not real talk though. This is like kind of very important to kind of express, because a lot of people pay attention to the 4-year presidential elections, but they never really think about the midterms. You know what I mean? So it's just like, if you aren't aware, these are the time. Pretty much midterm, which is mid of the 4-year term, you get to elect pretty much members of the House of Congress. You know what I mean? You typically your senators. So the reason why this is important is because if you wonder why sometimes your president isn't able to push the agenda he's trying to push, anything that he passes through usually has to go through the House of Representatives and Congress. So it just plays a major part in sometimes even being able to see the things that your president is promising to you on election day or during the election, campaign. But with that being said, there were 4 things that pretty much they did a poll on the pewresearch.com. They did a poll on the 4 things that were very important to registered voters. And actually, the first thing was inflation or the economy, which was ranked as the most important issue at 79%, followed by violent crime at 61%, foreign policy at 54%, and foreign policy and immigration also at 54%. And these are basically the topics that are influencing people's votes as far as, who are they going to elect, for their house or for their state. I wanted to get your guys' takes on it. Like, how important is the inflation or economy to you all right now? Or is that actually something that's steering your vote? Are you voting first and foremost? And is that something that's actually going to steer your vote?
Yeah, well, for me, being in Georgia, it's a tough vote to make.
You don't like Herschel Walker?
I'm just saying, all them, everybody in there just got some questions, got some question marks on them. So I'm not even going to I don't even know. I think it's going to be a last minute kind of decision. But, I think it's kind of interesting, though, that once the presidential election is done, the midterms, I'm not going to front because I was one of those people, too, that midterms like, what's that? Why do I even bother with that? What's the importance of that? I voted for the president. Give me my sticker. I voted. I'm done. What is this extra levels of voting? You know what I mean?
All right.
And then the more and more you start finding out that even for these polls and stuff like that, they meet, they convene. There's opportunities to collect your information and your perspective because it helps ultimately shape the direction of the country.
I gotta say something quick. I know Chunky is an advocate for this level of voting, so make sure you go out there and vote because it does impact everything to the federal level. So, but for me, the key things that I'm looking for, as a new dad, gun control is important to me. So I'm looking at those policies. What are we doing in our community to ensure the safety of our kids? And definitely foreign policy is up there as well because all this nuclear talks and, it's kind of scary when you look at it. So you want to make sure, the leaders and the person that we vote in to be the leaders of this country is capable and are, capable of doing the job right. So, and also the economy is definitely important, man, because, we need to pay these bills and inflation and the impact on daily goods, gas prices and, all of that stuff. So it's all important. So yes, I'm looking at all of that stuff, man. So whoever float my bubbles or kind of get to me is gonna get is gonna get my vote. So for sure.
So I would say, real quick and simple, key points would be know who you're voting for, know their background, know who your incumbent is, know who the challenger is. What you need to look at is not about a Republican or Democrat thing. It's about who's going to make the best choice for everyone that's going to be in that district. So you look at midterms. So the House goes up every 2 years. Senators go up every 6 years. So if you pick a good House representative, congressman or congresswoman, what they're going to do is put together the HR bill, right? The HR bill is going to go to the upper chamber, which is the Senate. If you have to vote on a senator, make sure you vote for the right senator that needs to be in that spot. Don't be upset if you lose. Don't talk shit if you don't vote. At the end of the day, everything is important. So it's not about the president. Glenn hit it on the top of the head. It's about the people that are in those other positions that actually push those bills forward for them to be voted on. Make sure you know what you're voting on. As boring as it is, I'm going to tell you to watch PBS and C-SPAN. Actually know what's going on. Actually look at Ballotpedia. Actually look at GovTrack. Know what you're looking at before you make the vote, and the person that may look nice, may speak well, but if you look at their history and their track record, it may be shit. So like I said, that could be on the left or the right side or even in the fucking middle. To be honest with you, make the best decision. Do your research. You can spend an hour and some change on TikTok looking at cat videos. You can spend an hour and some change looking at political policies, whether it be foreign policy, whether it be inflation, whether it be something as simple as getting a tax credit for just buying yogurt. All that shit counts. Pay attention, do your due diligence. You got a fucking problem with me? Go ahead and say it. I'm willing to engage on this conversation. I want everyone to get what they want, which doesn't seem feasible or practical, but it is possible. Everyone, let's just meet in the middle. Vote for who you want. I'm not Republican or Democrat. I follow the best person for the job, hands down.
Damn. Okay, Dad.
You went in.
Yes, sir.
You went in.
I mean, it's true though. I mean, he hit it on the head because, you know, particularly we really have to spin that narrative. Like and it really does matter. Like, and I think you hit it on the head as well with don't talk shit if you don't vote. Like that should be the slogan, not vote or die. Don't talk shit if you don't vote.
That part.
Trademark that. It's officially trademarked.
Officially.
All right. So let's get to the next one. And this one I like to call a street stat. Street stat is when you hear a statistic that is not verified, meaning there is nothing to support it. It's just an opinion as far as we know until we get some evidence to corroborate it. But apart from that, this is actually a submission from one of our followers, Marsha T. And she indicated, according to a stat, there was a suggestion that 70% of men cheat did so simply out of opportunity or luck and not because of marital dissatisfaction. These same men are also looking for ways out of their marriage. What's your guys' take on this? I mean, I think, you know, being the non-married member of the panel, I think anytime a guy gets it in, it's usually luck or opportunity at this point, because it's just like, for what I can witness, it's a little hard out here in these streets. Like, it's real talk. It's a little hard out here in these streets from what I can witness. So I think anytime you smash, it's a matter of luck. But of course, when you're in a committed relationship, that's a different story. But I mean, what do you guys take on this? I think usually it's like, oh, this guy's not happy in his marriage. She's not happy in her marriage. That's the reason why they cheat. But to think that, hey, it's somebody came by and said, hey, you want to smash? And it's all right, cool.
I don't know. I feel like, I mean, first of all, you already said it's a street stat, which already makes me question, you know, the validity of the percentage. But I still think that, I mean, I think we're in a generation where, you know, everyone is all about opportunity and capabilities, and whatever's presented in front of them that works the best for them, that's kind of the decision they make. Now, that doesn't mean that people won't decide to stay together or decide to continue to embark on long-term relationships, i.e. marriage. But it also means that there's going to be those individuals who are, you know, more sexually liberated, more socially liberated, and then they're going to explore what other options that are available to them. It's so funny. I think I ain't trying to use the whole time, but I think it's interesting because I do think that this conversation really stems and ties into the paradox, the machine that is social media. I just put on tinfoil hat for y'all real quick. Woo. But I do think that it is perpetuated by the beast that is social media, because social media helps us to kind of, it gives us a reflection of maybe not who we are, but some kind of aspirations that we have internally, our id, and kind of what we kind of want to pursue or what we think we want to pursue, but may not be the best option for us. So, I mean, long-winded way of saying, I think that I don't think men cheat solely because of opportunity. I don't think that women cheat because of opportunity. I think, you know, it's going to be, opportunity does play a part in it, but just because the opportunity is there doesn't mean someone's going to take advantage of it, you know?
Okay, let's see what someone else has to say then.
Well, I mean, I guess I can say that, I mean, smashing is not luck. I mean, it happens because you can get it.
Oh, word? You saying people don't slip and fall in? I know people don't slip and fall in.
I'm just saying some people could just get it. It's how it depends on you individually. Your experience is different from one man or one lady to the next person. So I think it's based on experience. But yeah, based on the question, I think people cheat because they want to cheat. I do understand the notion of the luck of if it presents itself. You know, we tend to like maybe take advantage of it as men or as women. But the second part of that statement, though, I disagree with it. I don't think people who do cheat are looking for ways to get out of their marriage or relationship. I think it's just people just doing dumb shit. You know, if you cheat and you make a bad decision, it's just like you making a bad decision. But I don't think it means that you actually want to get out of your marriage or your relationship, because most of the guys who cheat are doing it behind their spouses or their partner's back they don't want to get caught, right? If you want to end your relationship, you do it so they can see it. Or well, I mean, I don't think nobody really openly do it unless if you're a relationship.
That's an
Yeah,
open
you are
relationship. It's
if
not
you are
cheating anymore.
right, if you're in an open relationship, then you openly do it, right? But if you are not, most men or most women who cheat do it behind their partner's back. Then they get caught, and then it leads to a divorce or a breakup or whatnot. So like the notion of it, like they do it because they want to get out of their relationship. I disagree with that.
I think, you know what's just one thing to say about that though is I feel like now, especially when you think about like the economy, inflation, where everything is at right now, you have a lot of people that are married but separated. So what's happening is they're in the home together, you know, but they don't sleep with each other. They don't do things married couples do. There's like, okay, I have this side of the house, you have that side of the house. We're separated, but you know, we're married because it may be too expensive to look at buying a new home, going through the divorce, getting lawyered up, and all those things. So, you know, with a part of those statistics, I'm curious to also know, okay, how many of these relationships weren't divorced on paper yet simply because of hurdles that made it inconvenient to do so, or financial hurdles, or when you have children, you may think, well, damn, I don't want my kids to grow up dysfunctional. Let me ride it out until they're old enough, and then maybe we'll separate. You know what I mean? So, I mean, those are all things to consider as well. But I don't know, Chunky, anything you want to drop on this as well?
Oh yeah, pretty quick. It's just like my focus isn't men; it's both sides of the fence, right? So let's be honest, both men and women cheat. So to sit here and throw out the statistics is like bullshit, because it's just like men get caught more often than women, but women do it, and they do it heavily, right? So instead of pinning like, oh,
like, black men don't cheat. Black men don't cheat.
I say it in a sense like I'm tired of us being attacked as men, like, oh, men are dogs, men are this, men are that.
I agree.
But if a woman gets caught, it's just like, oh, well, you know, her marriage is bad, X, Y, and Z. There's always an excuse. So what I'm saying is you play it down the middle. People are people. People are fallible, right? So instead of looking at, oh, well, I'm trying to get out my marriage, whatever the case may be, no, people do fucked up things, right? It can be forgiven. How many times have you open up your social media app and see that, you know, what was it? Cardi B got cheated on by, I don't even remember who she's married to. Offset. Right. And she forgave him. It was Jay-Z and Beyonce, and she forgave him, right? But like, let one of them cheat on their husband. It's just like, oh, you go, girl, whatever. There's more grace given to them. So let's split this down the middle. If you're going to cheat, that's on you. Deal with your result. It's not a man thing. It's not a woman thing. It's both sides of the party thing. So let's be real. Stop pointing fingers and just be honest with one another. They both do it. Okay. So fuck that.
Okay. Question. But I mean, is it true though, when a woman cheat, it's more emotionally based versus when men cheat is it's more of the hack. It's more just the action.
I don't know.
Like, have you guys heard that? Have you guys heard that?
Oh yeah, I've heard.
Yeah, we've heard of
it. Isn't kind of asking me like I don't speak for women.
No, I'm just saying like it's a
I'm messing with you.
Societal knowledge, but yeah. Just so I just want to get
we got female listeners. Listeners, what y'all think? Is that?
Oh yeah, let us know.
Add a comment.
Tell us.
You know what it hit us.
Let us know. Do women cheat purely out of emotion? I mean, typically the argument is that men are visual creatures. We lean towards what we see, what's appealing and whatnot.
It's 2022. It's equal opportunity, right? So the old men and women role no longer exists, is from what I heard from the beast of social media. So
all right, so
women can do whatever.
Let's see. Drop a comment. Let us know. Do women still cheat out of emotion, or is it just a matter of luck for them too? Like, hey, this guy said I wanted to have a good time. Let's go out and have a good time. So
that would get some listener engagement.
That would be an interesting discussion, because I do think that the opportunity plays a huge part in that too. Yeah. And opportunity is going to be different based on gender. So
yeah. All right. So let's get to something that probably has a little less gray matter on it. Boy. I like to call it, and this is Francis' segment right here, because this is his homie. Yay. Yes, like leather gags during Pride Month. We just can't keep Ye's name out of our mouth these days. All right, so the former billionaire, now millionaire rapper and fashion designer recently lost a series of endorsements, including the likes of corporations such as Adidas, due to a recent charge of anti-Semitic comments as far as him going DEFCON 3 on Jews, which I must say he has apologized for since, you know. following more and more brands trying to no longer be associated with Yeezus. So what's your take on this college dropout turned masterclass provocateur? Is there a method to his madness, or do we need to call the church mothers to come save this man?
Oh boy.
Francis,
I just think
start.
No, oh man. You know what? I didn't want to start this by saying, Kanye. For me, when I love someone, if I say I fuck with you, I fuck with you. It's hard for me to find something. I mean, you have to like kill someone in my family for me to fuck with you, but yeah, I just want to. So
That's
I've
very
always
gracious of you.
I love Kanye. So I'm a little I'm a little biased to this. There's two things that's ongoing right now. There's the George Floyd conversation, and there's a Jewish anti-Semitic topic that's ongoing. Honestly, I've learned a lot, from what's going on with Kanye, what Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, because I didn't realize the power, the amount of leadership or exec that is led by the Jewish people. So like this whole thing kind of really shed a lot of light as far as kind of getting some visibility to that. But I'm not saying that I agree with what Kanye is doing. I do not agree with everything is said. I'm not a follower of Kanye West, of Ye. However, I do believe in freedom of speech. I feel bad. I feel like what is going on right now is more like bullying to me, because the way like it's been piled on by the power that be. I think they were trying to make an example out of him. And I just disagree with like the notion of really what's going on. Kanye needs, I wish he has a publicist. I don't know what it is. And I need them to follow their direction. But somehow Kanye is his own person. He says what he feels at that moment. And that's what gets him in trouble, man. Like it gets him in trouble. The George Floyd comment, I disagree with. But when I think about it and I look at it, when you look at the people he surrounds himself with, he has Candace Owens is one of his closest friends. Like he has billionaires that he's in and out with on a day-to-day basis. So a lot of his like mentality and his beliefs is kind of, I think, is derived from the people he surrounded himself with.
You don't think he does it himself? Like we said it before, like your words have a consequence, right? You have freedom of speech all day long.
Right.
But we all agree, if you say something that's not right, be prepared to deal with the result of it.
Period. I get that. But like nobody has ever had to deal with this level of consequences. Who?
I mean, we talked like there are lyrics about this before, and people talked about like you can't say a lot of things against the Jewish community. It's been said, and I have to go look it up. But at the end of the day, there's things that he's doing that's extremely provocative, that's gaining a lot of traction and attention. They're just completely wrong. What was going on between him, Kim K, and Pete Davidson? That was just completely wrong. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who you surround yourself with. You're your own individual. You make your own choices. No one forces you to make a choice. You're electing to be around these people and to gravitate in your echo chamber. So you deal with the consequences when you step out of it, which is called reality. So I don't take anything from you, but what I'm saying is that be careful with what you say, be mindful of how you say it and what the result of your responses are going to be. And it's either A, you eat it and move forward, or B, you retract it and say that you're sorry. That's your choice. But just be mindful that you are going to hurt a community depending on what you say, whether that's right or wrong. That's somewhat subjective at times. But I don't take anything from you in what you're saying. But at the end of the day, everything you say, if it's on a platform where it can be recorded, there is going to be a result behind it, whether it's negative or positive.
Yeah, and I just want to say that I'm not, what Kanye said about the black community and the George Floyd was out of bound. I agree with that. The old Jewish thing was, for me, was interesting because it was more of a eye opener to me, because there was a lot of information in there that I didn't have any privy to, as far as the amount of ownership at the Jewish level in the media. Like I didn't realize they actually do control as far as exec people at the level. Yeah. So I was like, wow, I didn't realize. And even this whole like Hebrew, because I know even Kyrie is in the news right now with this whole Jewish stuff too. Like, Hebrew to Negroes. I mean, that's an interesting topic. I'm like, okay, I really do want to like really kind of dive into it, not to really like build my own like viewpoint about it, but it's really more for educational purposes, really to understand where the background where all this stuff is coming from. So for me, it's really where, um, I'm more I try to feel bad for him and just trying to understand where he's coming from. I know he's dealing with a lot, the guys, and he's acting out in public like a child. So, and he's paying for it. So
My only thing is, I mean, Kanye West, Kanye Chitta, Mr. Yeezy, Ye, Yee, Ya, all them damn nicknames. I don't know what we're calling him now. There's too many for me, first of all. But secondly, I do love Kanye's music. I've always been a huge fan of College Dropout, Late Registration. All those albums were crazy to me. But I think it's sometimes hard to separate the music from the person. In his music, he's always taken that outlandish approach. But I feel like when you are having conversations in society, you need to be able to separate the two. And you don't need to be like, he may be trying to make a point. He may be trying to educate the community on something that maybe a specific group owns the majority of the industry. It may be true, it may not, but he doesn't have to be a provocateur with everything he says. You don't need to say DEFCON 3 and do all this extraness to make a point. And even to counter the argument of, sometimes you need to have a catchy statement or an outlandish statement to really drive the point. I take that. I don't agree with that, because Kanye West, he is a notoriety. He is a notorious person. We know who he is. He has a huge audience. He has a huge following. He doesn't need to say crazy things to draw attention to himself or draw attention to his points. That's the part that I have an issue with, like the fact that you always, even if you do feel like you have a valid point, you don't need to be saying, DEFCON 3, make an attack, an anti-Semitic remark, talk about the, Black community. Like, there's ways to have a counter argument to something without being, extravagant. And I think that's my number one issue.
Gotcha. And I kind of feel like, yeah, definitely agree with everything everyone's saying here as well. And a part of that also is just, we're now in the day and age that, hey, if someone doesn't like what you say, guess what? You can buy your own platform and say a whole bunch of that shit on it anyway. Hence, Parler. So, same reason why Trump has his own social media now. It's kind of just like we're now creating, they're being able to, I think there should be protections and limitations on speech as well. Like the same reason why we wouldn't want anyone to just run up anywhere and just start spewing the N-word all crazy and all type of obscenities. You know what I mean? So it's just like, can't say, oh, well, you know what? He has freedom of speech. Like, no, there should be certain protections as far as giving out information that could be divisive and harmful, especially knowing the kind of public that we have. So it's just something to consider and look at. But just like CP time in true fashion, we even over on CP time. That was even more than 6 minutes. My goodness. So let's get into it. Let's chop into maybe next time. Let's chop into the topic of discussion, what everyone is waiting for, starting with share an experience, an unforgettable experience. And I could think of one real quick of when I met a partner's parents, ex-Flame's parents, and it was actually during undergrad, and she invited me over for Thanksgiving, and this was all the way in Trenton. And basically she said, hey, you get to meet my family, get my mom, dad, everybody, the whole gamut. Went over there. I swear her dad looked just like Ice-T, bro. Like, he had the slick back ponytail, the black cap. He was just like sitting back in his recliner, and he was like, who this? Yeah, who this? Light-skinned dude.
Like, did you shake his hand? What'd you do?
Bro, he did not want to shake my hand. He was just looking at me like, usually I'm the good guy, right? Everybody sees me like, oh, okay, this guy, he don't look too harmful. Or
Make him on.
You know what I mean? He doesn't look too bad, but this guy gave me all the juju, man. I mean, he's sitting back, and I swear, I think he was like a CEO, like a corrections officer, and I think he was holding at the time that I met him. I remember walking in, she introduced me to her mom, and then boom, dad is just me mugging the whole time, and he had like the whole plastic on the couch, and he was like, all right, sit right here. And I went through this whole interrogation for like 15 minutes before I got to even meet the rest of the family. And I'm like, all right, you're drilling me right now, but you don't even know, like, if I'm even interested in really pursuing this relationship further. You know what I mean? Like, you're kind of meeting at this point. We were only like probably 3 months into the relationship. And this was just a formality at the point. It was kind of like the offer was extended. What am I going to say? Like, nah, I'm good. You know what I mean? It was kind of like, you know what? Let me just go. Worst case, you know, it just doesn't work. You know, I get some free food. You know, we meet and we just get to figure out a little bit more as well. So he's grilling me the whole time and finally lets me go. And he was like, you know, I don't trust you. And I'm just like, okay, like, peace. So we go downstairs and the whole Thanksgiving setup is straight up family style. Like, when she says Thanksgiving, I did not know it was going to be like straight up cafeteria tables of Thanksgiving. I mean, there had to have been at least been like,
what Thanksgivings do you go to?
Bro, my Thanksgivings are usually small. It's usually
that's true, yeah.
15 people at an 8 people table.
What race was she?
She was black. She was black.
So okay, so you got introduced to like a black
American.
Beans, potatoes.
So like I mean, we're all black, but yeah, but mine's small too.
So what
Black American.
Said, exactly. Black so D Black too.
Okay.
So I mean, the only functions I know that are that big are typically like the Nigerian functions, which can usually be
we got trays
30 to 40 people. But she was far from Nigerian. So basically we get there. I'm sitting at the table. Her aunt comes up to me and she's like, yo, you got some thick ass lips. And I'm just like, wait, what?
Wait a minute.
Yeah, you got some PSLs. And I was like, what? So I was like, I'm getting grilled by Pops, iced tea upstairs. I'm getting hit on by Auntie downstairs.
Yeah.
I'm like, I had to get out of there. And
you sure you didn't stay a little longer?
If I know what I know now, I should have.
I think Pops did his job for real. So being honest, like having a daughter is just like you're gonna test the strength of the man or person that they're with, right? At the end of the day, they're gonna spend more time with you than they will with the father. So I have to be able to trust you as an individual. If something goes bad, can you manage the situation? Because I'm not always gonna be there. So, of course, it's going to be 21 questions like, hey, let me fill you out. And I'm not going to like you up front. It's that whole persona, right? After a while, it may break. It may not. But at the end of the day, it's just like, did she tell him how long you were dating? The simple fact that she's bringing you over means there's a significant thing going on there. If the dude is just like, cool, whatever, I don't care who you are, and just walks away, that'll be an indicator like she brings every man that she's been with over to the house.
Facts.
But for him to sit down and take the time out and grill you, that means he does have an interest in his child. He does have an interest in making sure that she's safe. Being a young man, yeah, you may blow it off, but switching roles, you understand like, okay, there's different ways to go about it, but you want to test the capability of the significant person that they're with to make sure that you're comfortable, to make sure that you're trusted, to make sure that I don't have to lay awake at night if y'all go out in the middle of the night and hang out, that if something happens, you're not going to do shit, right? Just like we saw that video where the dude was walking with his girl and split between, and 3 dudes walked up and was touching and feeling on her. Like, what are you going to do about that? How am I going to assess that? It's the questions that I'm going to ask you. And
I agree and disagree, but we'll get to that. But I agree and disagree with those points. But we will get to that, though. We will get to that.
It's just making sure you're not about that. You're just not about the box. That's it. My daughter ain't for the streets. You ain't going like.
If you only knew.
If you only knew.
You only know what you know.
I think
not to get messy, but if you only knew.
I think that type of ideology just is like slowly fading. The fact that she actually even took you to meet her dad says a lot about her. Says a lot about the type of chick she is, and it shows that she values family and she values and respects the opinion of her father. I don't know if that type of mindset continues to kind of persist in our current stratosphere of current social stratosphere, but I think that says a lot. I think you should, like, women, I mean, take a moment to kind of, respect that, the men in your life, if they may not like the dude, they may catch red flags. And I mean, men know other men. So it's really important that, you do take that time for them to meet the parents, meet your father. And if your father's giving them a hard time and if the dude buckles on that little bit of pressure off that introduction, then maybe it's not for him. Not trying to play you, Salafi. Maybe he was just about to box.
Ooh, we just called you out.
No. I'm just saying that maybe he wasn't, you know, and that. But the thing is that I don't even see that's a negative because, like, we men here, we all men. Like, there's many women that we have met in our lives, and we've had different. What's the word?
Objectives.
Yes, different objectives or intentions with each one that we interacted with.
Yeah,
and I'll say if all of them have fathers that were heavily involved or male figures that were heavily involved in their lives, some of them we wouldn't have messed with. We wouldn't have gotten as far because we weren't about that. Like, I didn't take you that seriously, you know what I mean? But then for the ones that you did, you stayed, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think Francis had a story on this one too.
Oh no, I was just, actually, like, your story is so funny, bro. Like, but I do agree with Chunky because I think it's important it shows a lot about her, and if her dad reacted the way he's like just another guy, then it says a lot about that. There's a lot of guys that come to the house because there's different people and how they interact with their parents and their potential partners or whatnot, and we'll get to that topic later. But yeah, like, I've had really interesting interaction with parents over the years, but the one that really that kind of sticks out to me was the day that I met my current wife's, really not just her parents, like her entire family. We were like in our early stage, and it was during the holiday, so like her cousins, they were at her grandparents' house, and they live kind of close by to my house. So I dropped her off at the house, and I was just gonna just drop and bounce. But the next thing I know, one of her uncles came out the house while I was dropping her off, and he's like, "Francis, get your ass in the house." And I was like, no, I'm not coming in. I was like, I'm not even ready. It's like, we were even like in that early stage, like we were still talking. I didn't even like, my intention was not even defined yet. Like, so this was like a huge moment for me. And I was just trying to like pull a quick Yui, like pretend like I didn't see him. Like, and I got ran down, like, you gotta get your ass in the house. I walked in, there was like 20 people, bro, like right in front of the door.
I walked in,
and then I felt like I was in the middle and I got surrounded. And it was like, hi, hello, Francis, hi. I was like, what is going on right now? It was just a lot. It was overwhelming, and thank God nobody asked me for their name because, it was like coming through, like I forgot everything. It was like one of those, what's the word I'm looking for? You just kind of like,
blurred out.
It was a blurred experience, man. I can't even remember exactly.
You basically speed dated the family. That's basically
bro.
What happened.
I met her grandparents. I met her cousins, her aunties, and their husbands, and a bunch of like. I was like, and her parents was like, "Yo, it's a lot." But it was a good experience though. But it was kind of awkward because it was like I dropped her off the morning, and it was the holiday, so I'm sure they probably like, who the heck is this dude dropping you off in the morning? So
I mean, it gave you a deeper sense of who she was, though, because you were able to meet everybody.
Yeah.
All right, so let's ask this then, and I want you guys to also think about when you introduced your partners to your their future in-laws and whatnot. Is meeting the parents an glorified sentiment, or do you think it's actually crucial towards cementing the future of your relationship? Like, could you guys have gone through without introducing your partners today to who would be in-laws or extensions of their families, like, or do you think it's not that important?
No, I mean, you have to introduce them to your family because that becomes their family at the end of the day. And what we shouldn't misunderstand is that their family members said they're not going to like you, is not going to like your significant other. That's fine. But at the end of the day, it's what happens not four walls between you and them. So meeting the parents is a huge step. So when I took, my wife to meet my grandmother loved her immediately. And I talked to my grandmother about her. I spoke about her X, Y, and Z. So my grandmother was a big figure in my life at the moment. So for them to get along is a great thing. They didn't get along, doesn't make a huge difference, right? Because it's only those interactions. And like I said, eventually it'll get broken in. So when today's day and age, I can't speak for that. But if you're really trying to make a family or you're trying to have a true relationship and a marriage with someone, eventually they're going to have to meet your family unless you're just going to do a court wedding and never see your family again, right? So it's just like, you're going to have holidays. And if you have children, you're going to go to see the
support
family.
system. Yeah.
Right. So at some point, get your shit together. If you're about carrying it long distance in marriage, I'm not saying do it day 2 or do it day 3. But what I am saying is make that time to meet family, whether you like your family or not. That will make that person gravitate towards you more. Like, yo, you don't have a big family. Here's my big family. You don't have much in your life to gravitate towards. Let me offer you this, right? So to me, meeting family hands down is super important. But I caveat with this: if a family member don't like you, fuck them, right? It doesn't make a difference. You can try to earn their respect. Do what you do best. Greet them. Be nice. All that shit. But at the end of the day, that shouldn't have a bearing on how you treat your significant other. That shouldn't have a bearing in moving forward in your relationship with that significant other. People gonna love you. People gonna hate you. At the end of the day, it's all about that person you spend the most amount of time with, i.e., your significant other or your spouse. That makes that difference. If she or he loves you, or if they love you, that's what makes the difference. That's it.
Okay.
I think,
I don't know, man.
Go ahead.
I feel like the why matters though. Why don't they not like her, or vice versa? Like, because I think the why matters.
For what reason?
Because that's what drives whatever your next step.
I'll give you an example. I was hated because I was tired when I came over. People hated me because I didn't want to talk. Tired and okay, because you didn't interact. I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to interact with someone. It's 4 a.m. They wanted to hang out. I'm like, cool, whatever. Like, I'm done. I just got off of work.
They be at 4 a.m.
I was like 4. Why you guys waiting at 4 a.m?
What's going on?
So I got off of work. They party hard. That's their family style, right?
Okay.
So I came over, saw everybody when I got off of work, and it was just like, "Oh, you're an asshole." I'm like, "That's cool. That's your opinion. If you don't like me, you don't like me." But at the end of the day, she's healthy, she's fed, she's well taken care of on all different levels, mentally, emotionally, and physically, right? Whatever your reason why is, doesn't matter to me. It doesn't.
Okay,
because
so
if you're... Go ahead.
So my question is, like, does your wife or your partner at that moment, does she value your family into like liking each other?
Even if it's valued, right? That's something I have to work on with them. Like, hey, what happened? Do you value them to this great extent? No. Not that like, hey, when I come over, I'm gonna punch a motherfucker in the face. No, it's just like, okay, cool. I know my conversation with them is limited. I'm gonna be the nice person that I am. I'm gonna greet them, shake their hand. They want a hug, give them a hug. Until we are able to talk it out, I'm gonna keep the boundaries going. And I found out when you sit down and actually talk to people, when you break bread and have that conversation, like, hey, what was your misunderstanding of me? Because that's not accurate. What did I do wrong for make you feel this way for so long? Oh, I interpret it this way. Hey, let's sit down and talk like adults. Sometimes that shit gets squashed. So the why doesn't matter because I'm not going to be bothered with it. What I'm going to be bothered with is being a good support system to my significant other. Everything else outside of that, I will slowly deal with. Like I said, the why doesn't matter.
Let's hear Francis' take. You know, you're asking Chunky the question, but maybe you can kind of elaborate on why the why is important to you. Because I agree. I think the opinions of family do matter to an extent. Not to take away from Chunky's, but I agree. Like for me personally, they do matter. Like I do want to know the reason why you even introduce them to the family is also kind of like, hey, not because it's official, but you also want to gauge their opinion because sometimes family can see some things. The people that have some experience can see some things that you may not necessarily see because you're kind of jaded in the whole matter. You're like, I love this person so much, and yada, yada, yada. So maybe you can go and explain on the why for you. Like, okay, why is that important for you to know what your parents feel and having them being introduced to your partner?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because I do understand the notion that if your family doesn't like your spouse, it doesn't automatically means you have to break up with that person. So that's kind of why I was saying why, because for me, that is really the important piece. If you are disrespectful to my parents, or you were an ass to my family or my sister or my siblings or anything about my culture, and you mock it, you know, like, and then I didn't get any visibility to it, but someone in my family told me that this is how you reacted when something like that is part of who I am, and they share like, oh, this is how this person reacted when this came on, or when we were talking about this or whatever, or when we brought out the food, she said it was nasty or something like that. But like, yo, like that is why the why matters, because if she doesn't love that part of me, especially my family, my family is an extension of who I am, right? And that's for me, because I know family means totally different things for people. There are people out there without family, without parents or dad or mom, and they have people who represent family to them. So I understand that. And there are people out there. I have friends who bring every girl that they're not even dating. They bring them over to they meet the family.
Like who's coming this Thanksgiving?
Yeah, right. So for me, it's like only two girls ever met my family, and one of them I'm married to. Like, so for me, when I brought my wife over to the house, yeah, it was the most nerve-wracking day ever. I was on edge. I think we actually, like, real talk, I think we got into a fight on our way there because I was so on edge, and I was like trying to like coach her up, like, this is what you need, the do's and don'ts, because like it was bro, it was so nerve-wracking because their feedback is important for me. It's critical because
plays a part.
It plays a part because
So
I want them to like her.
I have a quick question before we get too far into it. So does their perception make a difference? So one of the things you said was just like they tried the food and said it was nasty. They may have never had it before. It may be something they normally don't eat. And it may be blown out of proportion. You give grace or a little bit of understanding to like, hey, this is something completely different for them. Like you had to give them a like 10 commandment sheet. Like these are the do's and don'ts when you walk in the house, and you're dropping it on them last second instead of saying, hey, be who you are, enjoy the moment, and we worry about everything else later.
Right. I mean,
it's kind of part of like,
you should be who you are.
It's part of dating. Like if you're dating someone of another culture, you will want to kind of coach up on these things before you do it, right? Like if I know I don't like spice, I'm not saying I can't date someone that enjoys spice or it's a staple of their meal, but it's also kind of like, all right, what are you doing on your end as well before you date the person? Like particularly when I notice with African, ethnicities and cultures, and there's a lot of culture there. You know what I mean? It's like there's a lot. How you address the elders, how you address their parents. Like there's a lot that you have to do. It's almost like if you're dating someone of another religion, you may have to accept the fact that I may have to transition over. You know what I mean?
See, and that's the tough part, right? Where it's just like, it should be like, hey, where's the middle ground? So understandably, like when it comes down, like even when I went to D Black's house, it was different. Like you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't say this, you can't say that. And what I did was the polar opposite. I said what I wanted.
Like,
got in trouble for it. But at the end of the day, it's just like
you Black will give his account.
I look at it this way. It's just like you do all that coaching before that happens. You introduce them to your culture as you're dating them. But when you're ready to bring them to the family, it's just like, hey, here are some brief reminders.
Good point.
So my thing is, it's just like I said, the why isn't important. People can misperceive things. You can just automatically have an attitude. Oh, they're lighter skin. Oh, they're of a different religion. Oh, they're of a different culture. They can automatically have a subjective knock on them. So to me, like I said, the why doesn't make a difference. But to Francis' point, they can see something that you don't see. And it's just like, well, that's kind of hit or miss. Like you need to pay attention to that as an adult and then take your family's word to a certain point, right? Like, hey, evaluate it. Not like if grandma's the elder, she's like, I don't like this person. Why, grandma? Because I just don't X, Y, and Z. It's just like, okay, I'll weigh that and table it and then get back to it later.
Why her booty jiggle so much? I don't like her. Her ass is jiggling all over the place.
She can just have alien yams.
Why,
you know what I mean?
her ass is jiggling like that. Damn, it's just jiggling all over the place.
So I think one thing that we should always kind of take away from this when you're meeting significant others, family members, that first interaction should not be the only interaction. You can coach someone up, but they're not going to master your culture in, a 10-minute car ride, even like a weeks before coming up to that interaction. They're not going to get it all. Right. So I think it's important that you have these conversations with both sides, with your family. Like, hey, first of all, you need to set up everyone so that they have transparency, because that is going to give everyone the best opportunity to be their best selves and give each other grace. Because if you go, especially as Nigerians, if you bring someone to a Nigerian household, a woman to a Nigerian household, they're going to think that you've already taught her how to prostrate, how to have a conversation with your parents, the right terminology you're supposed to use, how to sit, how to stand. Like, they're going to think that you did that, even if she's not of the same ethnic group or the same, cultural group. So you need to tell your family, hey, I ain't tell her nothing. I ain't tell her nothing about no foo-foo.
Sir.
I ain't tell
her nothing about foo-foo.
I don't like her. Anyway, I don't like her anyway.
Straight up. They're going to be like, oh my gosh, she doesn't know it. But they may be excited to be like, okay, we'll try to teach her. And it's the same thing, like, hey, we have some cultural ways that we say hello, we do all this, whatever. You know, you don't gotta master it, but if you make an attempt, you know, at least I've never seen a Nigerian family where they see someone who's not Nigerian and you make an attempt, they appreciate it because it shows a level of sincerity in your desire to be with their child. So that's all it really is about. And then secondly, that first interaction is not going to be the only one. Now, from every interaction from that point on, there needs to be some progression. There needs to be a little bit more adaptation, a little bit more compromise, a little bit more understanding. You know, it's not necessarily being fake in front of your significant other's family. It's just being, you know, like when I'm with my wife's family, I'm a slightly different person than I'm with my own family. When I'm with my boys, I'm slightly different. When I'm with my siblings, I'm slightly different. You have a slightly different persona depending on the people you're with. So it's not about being fake. It's just about fitting the group that you're with.
So can I ask this one real quick? I think you're going to touch into it, but is there a right time to introduce your partner to a family? Because I feel like you're touching on this as well, as far as like coaching and getting them geared up and filling them in, as far as there's cultural layers to it. But could part of the problem be that we're either introducing people too soon to the family or not doing it at the right time or waiting too long to introduce people to family? And as far as like, I guess, prepping family for it as well, because I think one thing that people always miss is this is new for your family as well. Like you're introducing someone into their lives also, and the impact that it may have. Like I think like the issue with most fathers, particularly why they're so aggressive in the first engagements, is the feeling that, hey, this guy is coming to take away my daughter. And without that, in order to prevent those kind of like hostile engagements or environments, it is on everyone's part, like you're saying, to fill each other in and prep the family for the engagement as well, and let them know, hey, this does not mean anything's going to change. Well, things are going to change, but this doesn't mean that I don't love you. I love you any less. It's just that I'm looking to expand my love for someone else in another regard and push our family forward. But in with that, though, is there a particular right time, or do you look for a key indicator when it comes to introducing someone to family?
So real quick, I would say, and I'll stop talking after this. It's just like when it comes down to a dad, the whole point of marriage is giving your child away, right? So the father's going to feel that way regardless. It's not hostility. It's just like if you're bringing this person over and you don't really bring people over, I'm going to look at it that way. I'm going to have to pretty much do that rites of passage and give you up to this person. So I don't think that's a negative thing. I think any good father and rational parent is going to think that like I have to turn over my care to this person, and that's to me completely understandable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. By the way, Glenn, you mentioned about like coaching both sides, because I think there's a thing about over coaching both sides, because I think I did that in my experience, where I over prepared my now spouse and my parents, and I think it created this tension, and I kind of complicated the entire interaction, especially the first few interaction, because I've stated too much and really just complicated the entire first time that they were meeting, and in a way it's kind of like you can kind of alienate your spouse because of the way you kind of go about it. So that's one thing that I learned from that experience, is like there could be a little bit something called too much preparation. But to answer your question, as far as timing. Is there the right time? I think it's individual and cultural based, because I think the right answer is, when are you ready? It's like that is the right time, because I know there's a internal pressure. You know, for me, you may have met your partner's parents, and maybe your partner is pressuring you that she want to meet your family. But at the end of the day, don't fall for that, because you have to make sure you do that action when you are actually ready for it. You know, for me, like, I have to make sure the relationship is actually worth for that person to meet my family. You know, because that step is such a precious, it's so critical to me, that okay, this is serious, and I see potential future with this person. So what
does that look like? Like, what was a key indicator for you?
For me, it was really just commitment. You know, I saw commitment, I saw loyalty, I saw like just the love and passion, and she cared. you know, there was a lot of like caring for who I am, and for me being like African and being like from a Nigerian descent, from Nigerian, born in Nigeria, I saw that she also was curious about my culture as well. I saw that she started like getting into like some of the Afro music. I was like, yeah, I love this girl. She might, I was like, she might be the one. So let's see where it goes, right? So those were the indicators, like really for me, just showing that, especially at the time when she came into my life, it was like I needed someone to be there, and she was like right there. She stepped up and she showed me the love that I needed at that moment, and she showed me even greater things, right? So yeah, for me, ultimately, it's when you are ready. Don't fall for the pressure that comes with it, because I know there's a lot of pressure around. It could be internally, it could be external pressure, but make sure you do it when it's appropriate for you.
Talk about pressure. There's a lot of pressure out there. What about you, D Black? Yeah.
Oh, I think it's so funny because we actually talk, like when we talk about like the indicators and the timing to make that introduction. I think it's really important, one, that you have a level of transparency with what you're looking for in a partner. And then, of course, they have that same level of transparency with you, because that will help you kind of determine the right time to make that introduction. I do think that, there is a lot of more dating or loose dating, or I don't know, just, intimacy or intercourse kind of just with things kind of going around. People are just kind of smashing and passing or whatever they're doing.
Are you like 50?
I have no idea.
Like what?
I have no idea what this generation does.
Smashing and passing.
Smashing.
I just feel like I just feel like there's no. I feel like the relation. Okay, I feel like the intent to date or the intent to become a serious relationship is not there. It's not as initially, like people do not approach, and maybe I could be mistaken, but I don't think that people approach someone with the mindset of this may be my long-term partner. Like most people are just like, oh, this person is cool, this person is chill, let's figure out and let's see where it goes. And then it's years down the line, and then you're making that like, okay, let's see if we can become an item. Let's see about, introducing to the parents. It's like you're not approaching it from the beginning of a long-term relationship. So the timelines there's two issues. One, the timelines for one person may vary from the other person, which then puts pressure on you, or may put pressure on them to make a decision to take the relationship to the next level. And now at that point, one person may just be determining, do you meet my key indicators? Are you the type of person that I want to be with long-term? And now you're rushing to make that decision. Now you're putting yourself in a position where you now have to introduce them to your family. You're not ready. They're not ready. So I think before even you get to the point of making that decision about making an introduction, you need to be truly transparent with yourself and the person as well, as far as what you are really looking for in a long-term relationship. Now, if those things don't match, then so be it. Maybe you may fall to something a little bit more casual, but at least start the relationship with the intent of being serious. I think that's why it goes all the way back full circle to that point that's Chunky was making about the dad and how, like when men will come and the dad kind of filters dudes out because
let me say this, pistol on the lap. Okay.
I mean, like, but like, okay,
the
like,
bad boy moment, bro.
How are you gonna manage that? So
like,
it's just
strip, homie.
What are you gonna do? You gonna get scared? You gonna strip down, or you gonna stand up? So
I mean, I get it, but I don't get it, because in a way you're kind of, what if I was strapped and I said, all right, homie, what we gonna do?
Did
you know what I mean? It's kind
of really
like, it doesn't work. Like,
to you it doesn't work, right? So if I was to do that same
I would
thing,
say there's a way to achieve it. In my opinion, there's a way to achieve
it,
right,
that's without your opinion.
Going to that extent. I mean, any reasonable human being though could say, all right, you may not like me, you don't know me. And again, we don't even know what the situation was. We don't know if she even told him that I was coming. We don't even know. We don't know anything. It could have been a surprise for him.
So, like, my question is,
like,
it
was for me too.
When you started the story, you said he was probably strapped. Now you're saying that he had the pistol on the lap. So which one? Something
looked. I mentioned it.
So which one was
he had a pistol on the lap.
So it looked like it, right? So
it looked like he was strapped. Yes.
Okay. Yo, he was just trying to get us. Yo, all I know is when we have daughters, man, you might feel a little different because
exactly
you're gonna be that same dad on the opposite hand.
I mean, if that's the case, I'm gonna be like, yo, don't bring him to my house.
Nah,
like,
you can't. So that's what it mess it up, right?
Yo,
that's what it mess it up.
house.
That's what
like,
it mess it up.
If you ain't marrying him, don't bring him to my house.
But it doesn't matter.
Bro,
So it's just like you want to be that.
I'm,
You want to be that father, right? That's just like, hey, I'm not going to judge you. Whoever you bring over, I'm going to filter. Period. Right. So it's your opinion. Like if you want to be strapped, if you don't want to be strapped, that's your opinion. But at the end of the day, as the man walking through the door, that is your decision to make of how you're going to react to the situation.
I'll just say this: you're not going to make it any easier for your child to move on if you want them to with that kind of behavior. That's what I'll say. There's nothing wrong with being there's protectiveness and then there's just being an asshole.
No,
like, come on, you gotta be able to separate the two.
Go ahead, Fred. All I gotta say, the strapping thing is a little too much. I think it's on the excessive side. But as far as the dad like grilling a potential boyfriend or partner to his beautiful daughter, I think it's appropriate, man. That is what I expect from a dad to do for any potential partner for his daughter. Like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna make sure the guy, whoever she brings to the house, I want her to feel the freedom, but she needs to tell him like, yo, my dad is gonna grill you, but you know, like that's what he does. But but I know you, I trust you. He's gonna like you because you like. I'm gonna show her, hopefully, my daughter what a man should be treated, right? So
that
should bring to the house. Yeah.
All right, strapped. I can be strapped in my own home. You got a problem with that? That's your problem.
Man, that's a little too much.
That's going to be chunky right there with the strap.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing, right? That's my choice.
Right.
So is my intent in the way that I approach something is to still fear in a person so they don't come back, or to gauge something? Like if I'm strapped in my own house because there's other things that are going on, or if I do law enforcement and I feel comfortable being strapped in my own home, if you feel some type of way about that, let's sit down and have the discussion.
That's a bit much. I'm just gonna say it's gonna make it very difficult to make that transition. If you're gonna do every encounter like that, you are inviting it to make it very difficult.
As a person who carries a firearm,
you gotta brandish it everywhere.
No, so let's stop. You didn't say he brandished it. You said you thought he had. You assumed he had it on him, right?
There are parents of a gun was
so like so here's the story.
All right, how you gonna cut me off, right? Let's get, because we were on time. So let's get into the key indicator.
I mean, let the man talk, man.
We're drilling this all day. We're drilling this all day.
But we're not. But I'm trying to get
here's what we do. If you want to get the full scope, we'll start a Patreon and we'll do the rest of that on the Patreon. I'm asking you a
question. Like the thing is, it's just like
we're on this point for the last 10 minutes already.
And I didn't get to say anything.
All right, so let's get to this. Let's share your key winning points for winning over the parents. We can talk about this on another episode if the people really want to hear it. But we probably talked about it for 20 minutes out of the 40.
I didn't get to say anything. That's what I'm saying.
Let's get to the key points for winning over the parents. What's your key point, Chunky?
Be strapped. Fuck them. like you want to be real. Like my key point of winning over the family, be who you are, right? You're walking in someone else's comfort zone, right? Which means it's either A, going to bring you out of yours, or B, put you in it. So don't sit there and assume. So being a good person and coming into it, don't be concerned about whether or not the parents really accept you. They don't have to love you off the first impression, the same point D-Black made. There are going to be other interactions. But they should gather enough information about you to make sure you're healthy enough for their child. And that's in all aspects. Enjoy the moment, look forward to next engagement, and keep positive vibes. So if someone's going to act difficult towards you, and that person that you're coming in with, that's your significant other, keep a positive attitude. Be who you are no matter what approaches you. Because at the end of the day, the most important thing is that person next to you feels comfortable, feels as though they can carry it forward with you, if that's your intention.
Fran, what's your tip for winning over the parents?
Man, I mean, I definitely agree about being yourself. But there's also a thing I say, don't bring your full self, especially your baggages, because nobody want to deal with that. So I agree. Bring yourself, but not all yourself. But like, and I think it's really important to like talk to your partner about the do's and don'ts. Like you said, Glenn, Chunky, your potential wife at that moment, they like to party, and they were drinking. So I'm sure that was a green light for you to kind of have a few drinks and get lit with them. But ideally, I don't know if you should get lit and get drunk and get wasted and tipsy on the first time meeting the parents. Ideally, I don't think that's. But
join the culture.
Right, but I think, yeah, you know
When in
what?
Rome.
I get it. I get it. It's not, but like for me, I think it's important to kind of keep that nice, maybe a couple drinks, enjoy the conversation, and really engage. Like to your point, you didn't say anything to nobody, so they was like, man, what's up with this guy? He cocky or he stuck up? You think he's a shit, whatever. Like, so for me, I think it's important to make sure to really try to engage with the people, get to know down, like get a chance to, like, especially the dad. You want to make sure as a male, you want to make sure like you get along with the dad, because it's the dad's job to make sure like my daughter, I'm trusting this man with my daughter, and he's gonna be able to protect and provide and do whatever, right? And so it's important to have that one-on-one conversation with the dad, and definitely, of course, make time for the mom as well. Vice versa, regardless of whatever gender or sex you fall under, make sure to have those conversations and have fun. Be yourself. Don't stress. And if you need to use the bathroom, make sure to flush. Don't clog up the toilet. You don't want to be the visitor that came in and clog up the toilet.
That part.
That's embarrassing. So don't embarrass yourself.
ID, what's your tip for winning?
Yeah, I think the main thing is, obviously you want to be yourself, but again, I think it starts well before you go and meet the parents. Your intention and then your mindset in going into the relationship should carry you into meeting the parents. If the person you're interacting with is going to be somewhat a reflection of their parents, and then or their family members. Obviously, family dichotomies are different. They vary. So I think it's just being genuine, being yourself, and then having a genuine conversation with your significant other or your intended significant other well before you get to meet the parents' point.
Bad, good looks. And for me, my tip is basically stay in your lane. Dinner with parents probably isn't the time to test out that TikTok food hack or that next level Henny mac and cheese. So basically, know where you shine and stick to it, even if it means you bought the paper plates and utensils to the gathering. Cooking's not your strength. Spare everyone the forced smiles and bubble guts. And honestly, like, this says you don't want to be remembered as the person that clogged the toilet. Do you really want to be remembered as the person that gave everybody diarrhea? Like, real talk. Additionally, trying too hard to impress can often add stress to an already tense atmosphere. So let's avoid that. After all, it's the content of your character that's on display and not your super secret talent, Meg Needs, or IG follower account. Lastly, you're not the only candidate under review here. You're also looking to see if that partner's family is a good fit for you as well. So let's avoid any unnecessary distractions. Be confident, be you. Remember, you got this. And I think we made some great points here. There's a lot left to be disclosed, and because time does not allow it.
I got some question for y'all.
We gotta go.
No, I got a question. We gotta talk about this real quick. What happens if you go to the parents? What can happen and make you run from the, like? What does the experience have to be like from you meeting the parents?
Oh, like you've ever ghosted somebody after you met them?
You would ghost them.
For more content, to learn more about the pod, feel free to check us out at Jerk Your Love Collar Pod on Instagram and Facebook. If you want to send us a street stat for CP time or anything else you want to hear us talk about, go ahead and follow us on Instagram and Facebook as well at Jerk Your Love Collar Pod to send us your info, and we will give you our opinions on it. Until then, stay healthy, wealthy, safe, and blessed. Thank you for getting your daily dose of culture with us here on the pod. Peace.
Peace.
Yeah.
You could pause it.